Can do this with a mic and a clicker, multitasking. So hi, thank you all for being here. I know it's been a really exciting and fruitful and probably tiring 2 days, but I am honored, and my colleague, Dr. Khaled, and I are honored that you are here in dialogue with us about fostering critical language awareness, learner agency, and bilingual and bicultural identities of heritage speakers in different community-based settings. And thank you so much to Danielle and Joy and Mark and your whole team for bringing this all together. I am an associate professor of Spanish applied linguistics and director of graduate studies at George Mason University in the Department of Modern and Classical Languages. And my wonderful collaborator, Dr. Fatima Khaled, is head teacher at the Arabic Peace School in North London. So everyone say hi to Dr. Khaled. She's in 5 or 6 hours ahead from now, so it's nighttime. Um, let's see.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad
They're saying, yeah, okay. All right, so here's a quick overview. We're looking at heritage language education in 2 very different settings, but that align in hopefully productive ways and in ways that you can envision bringing these approaches into your own context. I'm going to be talking about community-based approaches to learning in the Spanish as a heritage language context, specifically in a university setting. I'm going to present critical task-based models that I apply in my research and in my teaching to fostering community partnerships, a huge theme yesterday in Dr. Jinsuk Lee's talk, which was very inspiring. How I've applied that in specifically a few of our courses that are rotating topics, service learning courses, Spanish in the community. And then I'm going to talk a little bit more about, and I want you all to think about and that we dialogue about, what is critical language awareness, what is sociolinguistic agency, and how can we use those as implement those not only as learning objectives, but also as pedagogy and also as outcomes of what we're doing. Dr. Khaled, Fatima, I hope it's okay I call you Fatima,
Yeah,
will be
sure.
we'll be talking about in a different context, in an Arabic heritage language school in London, with learners who are, I believe, 13 to 18 years old, and how they have developed a visual arts-based project. So it's more of a project-based language learning approach. And she's going to talk to us about how she's done that in her own context to foster students' agency, but also to develop their bilingual and bicultural identities. And then we'll end with collaboration. And we hope that about 30 minutes, I believe, we'll have to collaborate both in person. So all of you will be with me, and everyone online, hello, and thank you for being here. You will be with Fatima. So we're going to try to apply, adapt, and then share some of the principles that we're going to talk about today. So some key concepts. Community of practice, community stakeholders, and then, of course, these 2 constructs that I mentioned, critical language awareness and sociolinguistic agency. I just want everyone, this conference in and of itself is a beautiful example of a community of practice, right? An active community of practice. So I want you to think about, though, what are other communities of practice you belong to and that you actively participate in your daily life? Just turn to a partner and think about that. It can be in any realm of your life, not just as an educator. There are no wrong answers. Okay, wonderful. I hear a lot of good dialogue. I don't want to take too much time on this so we can move forward. But would anyone like to offer an example of a community of practice you belong to in your daily life? One example for me is the school, the public elementary school where my children attend at FCPS. I am an active member of the PTA, right? I was on the board. I'm not on the board anymore, thank goodness. So anyone else, another example of a community of practice? Yes, ma'am. Beautiful. That is a very specific, oh, sorry, very specific and great example. Yes, Anna? Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. So someone in the audience just shared that she belongs to a nonprofit sector community of practice. Yes. Okay. It's too loud. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Now better? I don't know how to use this thing. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Now better? It's either one end of the spectrum or the other. So communities of practice and community stakeholders, these are two central concepts I always begin my classes with. In fostering students' own vision of themselves as participating in a community of practice as a stakeholder, right? And we can talk about like our classrooms are communities of practice. Like we can have communities of practice at very different scales. So you're probably familiar with this definition, maybe from Lave and Wenger. A community of practice is defined as a group of people who share a concern or a passion for something they do, and they learn how to do it better as they interact regularly. What we are doing here, right? We are dialoguing. Um, there are three main components to define a community of practice. You need to have a shared domain of interests. You need to have people, part of a community, who practice it, and you need to have regular practice, right, to improve or work towards shared goals, shared purposes, right? So who do we define as community stakeholders? And in a critical community-based approach to fostering service learning, to fostering community-based learning opportunities for our students, um, we don't want to position students as the only beneficiaries of this endeavor, right? It's not a one-sided beneficial. It should be a mutually beneficial experience. And so we get students, we try to get them to think about, I am a stakeholder in a broader educational endeavor. I have a vested interest in the success of and access to equitable forms of language education. So that's kind of a starting point for my courses. Now, to talk a little bit more about CLA, which is critical language awareness, this is a foundational principle of my curriculum design, of my outcomes that I assess, and of the models that I implement in my work. So critical language awareness, you can think about it in terms of it's evolved, right, over the years since 1970s Brazil, when Paulo Freire proposed his revolutionary model of liberatory praxis, right, naming, action, reflection. So critical language awareness has its foundations in Freire's work, in the Freirean concept of conscientização, right, consciousness raising, but not in the traditional way we think of consciousness raising in language teaching, right? We are expanding, broadening students' understanding and awareness of the different socio-political dimensions of language use, the social dimensions of language use, sociolinguistic variation. What is it? What are hierarchies? Linguistic hierarchies. How does language serve as a tool of power, either to include or to exclude, right? So it's broadening students' understanding of what language is, right? So it's awareness, cultivating an awareness. It's cultivating attitudes, being aware of your own language ideologies that oftentimes operate invisibly, right? teaching students what is a standard language ideology? Who decides what variety of a language is considered standard, right? And then within the context of Spanish heritage language education in the US, CLA has continued to evolve through work by many of my colleagues who I admire and respect, Jennifer Lehman, who I work with at George Mason, Glenn Martinez. And really, CLA has expanded to also include agency, right? And we're going to talk about what is agency. I'm going to focus on agency as a construct, as a goal. And Ahern, and this is a really great article in 2001, I think it's the Linguistic Anthropology Review, defines agency as one's socio-culturally mediated capacity to act. And of course, within the context of Spanish as a heritage language, that means fostering students' ability to, first of all, recognize that there's a status quo, okay? And then building their agency to either resist or not the status quo, to make their own language choices and to recognize the value of their own varieties, even if they are contact varieties, right? Yes, so we call this sociolinguistic agency, okay? And like I said, we've seen a real critical turn in Spanish heritage language education. Highly recommend this book by my colleagues Sergio Loza and Sarah Beaudry. They really go, especially the first chapter, really lays out the progression of Spanish heritage language education in the US, which has always at its root had social justice as a guiding motivation. But it is not until the last 10 to 15 years that we see Freire's critical language awareness, his liberatory praxis, really become a focus point and a guiding goal for our for Spanish heritage language teaching in the U.S. If you read and speak Spanish, if you teach Spanish, I'm going to do a little shameless self-promotion. This is a chapter in my co-edited book that just came out in May, all in Spanish. This is meant to be a methods book to train Spanish teachers. It's 15 chapters. This is one of the chapters, and it really lays out the foundational principles of CLA-based pedagogy in Spanish language teaching. Happy to send that to anyone. So what is a critical task-based approach to community-based service learning? And in Freire's conception, right, community stakeholders are all of us. We do not liberate ourselves alone. We liberate, it's a mutual liberation, right? We work with and not for communities to meet their needs. And that's a really key point in terms of differentiating between more traditional models of community-based learning, which tend to be framed as volunteerism, right? Students are going to come in and fix and meet the community's needs without a more critical awareness of why those needs exist in the first place, right? And I've written about this a lot, and it's really guiding principles in my practice. There are a lot, these are all shared principles that define task-based language teaching, that define critical language pedagogy, and that intersect also with community-based learning, right? Fostering more democratic participation, mutual aid and cooperation, learning by doing, freedom, right? Teaching as a practice of empowerment and freedom. So my colleagues and I have developed a framework that we call critical TBLT. So I don't know how familiar you are with TBLT, task-based language teaching. It's essentially the latest iteration of communicative language teaching. It is based on research. It is based on knowledge about the mechanisms that most effectively foster second language acquisition, quality of input, quality of interaction, quality of feedback, how to optimize the language learning environment. But TBLT also has philosophical foundations like we see here. And so I want to make more accessible to teachers, to educators of all different levels and all different backgrounds to be able to implement, right? So you can to have it be more accessible. So what I have done with colleagues is to align the main task phases in designing a task, which is a pre-task, the during task, which is the main task, and the post-task phase with Freire's phases in his liberatory praxis of naming, action, reflection. And I'm going to give you contextualized example of that. Okay, so localized examples, like I was saying, and I just am so grateful for Dr. Jinsuk Lee's talk yesterday, because as she was talking, I'm like, oh, that's what I'm doing. The service learning model, the research model, the integration model with institutions. So in our Spanish major and minor program, we've endeavored to build in Spanish for the professions curricula, Spanish for specialized purposes, Spanish for business, Spanish for healthcare, Spanish for social services. And I have taught that, so this is a rotating topics course, span 400. I've taught it as Spanish for social services in partnership with the Fairfax County Social Service Department, the Department of Family Services. And I'm going to focus on SPAN 485, which is a course I designed in fall of 2016. And the course in the books, the title is Spanish in the Community. But my colleague, for example, teaches it as Spanish for Healthcare in partnership with local medical clinics that serve low-income immigrant patients seeking medical attention. I teach it as Spanish in the Schools in partnership with local dual language immersion schools in Fairfax County Public Schools. So that's what I'm going to focus on. And all of these courses really seek to foster students' awareness of the role of language in equitable access and educational equity, right? That is the key focus. So here's a little bit more about my context. I work at George Mason University. I'm sure you've seen us in the news recently. It is a highly diverse university in all senses of the word. It's the most linguistically and culturally diverse public Research One university in Virginia. 25% of our college students identify as first-generation college students. We are considered an emerging HSI or Hispanic serving institution. I believe the percentage of our undergraduates who identify as Hispanic or Latino is around 19 to 20% right now, okay? So we have a lot of heritage speakers in all of our language programs: Arabic, Korean, Chinese, Spanish. Unfortunately, we don't offer Portuguese, but many, very unfortunately, let's talk. So this is a little bit of background. In fall 2016, I sought a partnership with the Alexandria County Public Schools working. Oh yes, I'm so sorry. I'm a little too excited. I know. Okay. So we, oh, there we go. Now can you hear me? Yeah? Much better. Can online people hear me? Sounds far away. I'm so sorry. Yeah? Okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm not gonna move my hand. I'm not gonna move it. I'll try the big microphone. Sorry. Oh gosh. Hello? Okay, much better? Yes, thank you. Sorry. I'm sorry I've been hurting all of your eardrums. So I partnered with Mount Vernon Community School, which is a dual language immersion program, 50-50, kindergarten through 5th grade. Really? So that was the neighborhood I used to live in. So I identified as a community stakeholder of this neighborhood. My kids were not yet school age, but I partnered with the literacy specialist at MVCS and the assistant principal. And we did, a community-based needs analysis, like how can we mutually help each other? And the community identified need there was they needed more in-classroom support to enhance biliteracy development and to foster, to improve their outcomes, right? The standardized testing outcomes as well as their literacy outcomes in Spanish. The latest iteration of this partnership was in spring and summer 2025 with FCPS, Fairfax County, which is the sixth largest public school district in the country, highly linguistically and culturally diverse. I think about 35 to 40% of students identify as language minority students where a language other than English is spoken in the home, which is about double or more the national average of speakers of other languages, lotes, languages other than English. This community identified need, right, it was a bit different. And I didn't reach out to them, they reached out to me, and it was actually PTA led. So the PTA is highly active at this school, and they run an after school program, extracurricular program about language and culture called Amigos. And so the PTA are like, we don't know what we're doing. Can you guys help us? We want to do this program. Can your students help us? And so basically my students served as volunteers and they designed some tasks to do with students after school once a week for 15 weeks. Well, no, they did that for about 7 weeks. So in the context of what we saw with naming, action, reflection, pre-task, during task, post-task phases, in the first iteration of this partnership, the identified community need was to enhance biliteracy support, right? So what did students do? What was the service learning component of my course? It was to serve at least 20 hours in the community, in the school site, as a Spanish literacy aide. They did classroom observations. They supported teachers with their learning plans and learning objectives. They also conducted stakeholder interviews with different educational stakeholders. And what I want to focus on is the critical biliteracy task that they designed using this critical TBLT model that I'm going to show you. So working with the school biliteracy specialist student who gave us this book, which was in the second grade classrooms, they were going over reading strategies, prediction, right, scaffolding, circumlocution, and different ways to make meaning, right, through reading. And so she gave us this book, and my students had the pre-task phase of readings in class that we discussed. They talked about them on the discussion board, about critical approaches to literacy, right? Reading the World, Reading the Word by Freire and Macedo, Ofelia Garcia's work on bilingual pedagogy and biliteracy instruction. And they had their own, like I said, a lot of our students identify as heritage speakers, so they had a lot of discussion about their own early literacy experiences. What's the first language or languages you learned to read in? Who read with you? What context did you learn to read those languages in, right? Just to create that awareness. They met the during task phase is to design a critical biliteracy task to be used in the second grade classrooms of our community partner site. And so they participated in guiding sessions with the school literacy specialists. They worked in small groups to select different scaffolding strategies for before, during, and after reading phases. And then they carried out the task in second grade classrooms for a total of 50 minutes. And then the post-task phase for my students was centered on critical reflection about the service learning experience and integrating what they were learning in the class with what they were learning in the community site. This is they also did a linguistic landscape of the schools, taking pictures of the visibility, the symbolic value of the partner language Spanish. These are pictures from Laurel Ridge Elementary School, which was the latest partnership. And then you can see some of my wonderful students and the teachers that they worked with. Here they're leading reading groups with the students at Laurel Ridge. So that just happened in the spring. And this summer, so this is an excellent example of what Dr. Jinsuk Lee was talking about yesterday. I applied for a Oscar Summer Team Impact Grant with my colleague, Dr. Ji-Hae Moon, who is a Korean professor who I work with. And we partnered with Colin Powell Elementary School, which is the only Korean English dual language school in FCPS currently. I believe they're adding another school soon. And with my partner school, Laurel Ridge Elementary. And we got this grant, which was to support over the summer a 10-week community-based needs analysis for students to carry out this work at the two partner schools. And so we were able to provide a full stipend for their work as student researchers. So they got a $6,500 stipend. We were able to hire 8 students and 1 graduate research assistant to do this work. So, and then at the end of the summer project, our students shared their work in research posters at the Oscar Student Research Symposium on August 1st. And I am so honored. One of my students, Yami, and her and another student in the STIP project, Melody Campos, were voted for Best Poster Award. So we were very proud of that. And so the next phase of this analysis will be to really implement what we found through this work. And I'm not going to go into detail because I want to move on. Let's see. But I'm happy to answer any more questions about that. Okay, so to end, and before I turn it over to Dr. Khaled, I just want to reinforce that we are better together, we are stronger together. And I want to highlight some things I've been thinking about and ways to strengthen our communities of practice at the local, national, and international level. So I think conducting localized community-based needs analysis to identify community stakeholder needs, not learner needs, community stakeholder needs, learners as community stakeholders, but also community members as a key starting point, right? And to do that work, we need to have support, right? We need funding, we need incentives, we need students to participate and to have an incentive to seek out community-based learning opportunities. At George Mason, the course I was just talking about, SPAN 485, Spanish in the Schools, I applied for it to be designated as a Mason High Impact course for which students can apply for tuition support. Okay, so that's one way that George Mason as an institution is supporting community-based learning and incentives for both faculty and students. We also just revised a graduate course and made it a community-based internship course up to 3 credits. And then we're exploring developing a minor on language for specialized and community-based purposes across all the language programs in our department, Arabic, Korean, Chinese, okay? And then funding support, there are grants, right? I'm sure you're aware, through organizations. Some of these are partners with the National Coalition on Community-Based Heritage Language Schools. ACTFL has a research priorities grant. It's kind of like, I've never applied for it. It's kind of like a low-hanging fruit. And there's all of these different areas, right, that they accept proposals for. So I would highly recommend everyone looking more into that. There's also the Modern Language Association Pathways STEP grant that can support curricular innovation of this kind. Like many of you have said, and like we are all doing here, we need to actively seek out and engage in teacher training and professional development opportunities and to utilize the materials and resources at our disposal. I'm just going to highlight 2 opportunities. In my institution, I direct an online graduate certificate in Spanish heritage language education. It's fully online. It's 15 credits, and we have a lot of in-service and aspiring teachers that either already have a PhD or already have an MA, but they want a credential, right, that can serve to show that they are specialized. They have specialized training in these principles that I'm talking about. And then this is Yo Soy. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but my colleague, Dr. Maria Luisa Parra, who's at Harvard, developed this. It's fully online and available and free to educators, parents, and they lead pedagogical workshops and trainings in line with Yo Soy. So if you are looking for materials, authentic materials based on critical language pedagogy, I would recommend, I'm happy to put you in touch with her. And finally, let's keep dialoguing with other community-based heritage schools across contexts, not just locally, but nationally and internationally. I had the most wonderful experience this April when I was in Amsterdam for a TBLT international conference, and my friend, very close friend, Dr. Josh Prada, gave a talk at the Ukrainian Heritage Language Teacher Conference held at The Hague. We talked for 2 hours right after the conference with these teachers and the socio-political context in which they are in versus where we work and live and teach. And we found so many commonalities, and it was just inspiring, right? We all need some inspiration. So that is where I'm going to end, and we will go collaborate together and hopefully talk about these concepts that I've just blown through very quickly. And I will turn it over to my colleague Fatima to talk to us more about project-based learning.
Fatima, you're muted.
Now we can hear you.
Thank you. I've been talking by myself. I'll be talking about implementing a project-based approach with Arabic heritage language learners and how the project-based language learning has helped these learners into the creativity, motivation, learner agency, and identity. The outline of the session is we'll start with a group discussion about heritage language learning and to hear from you and in terms of the project-based language learning, what it is as well. And I'll be talking about the affordance of visual art and the artists that I have used. Then I'll be showcasing the use of project-based language learning with my students, where you will see their creativity and their work. And then we will talk about, we will be putting the online group into in the rooms where they will be discussing, they will be creating something that is inspired by this artwork, hopefully. So we can move to the next slide, please.
Yes.
Can we move to the next slide? Thank you so much. So my first question, it's good to hear from you and to learn from each other. So what does the term heritage language learners means to you? And is there a link between heritage language learners and foreign language learners and mother tongue language learners? Of course, I heard the session of Christiana, which was really like as if I'm finishing what she was saying or combining what she was saying. I don't know if anyone has attended it. That's why it's good to hear from everyone in terms of learning and interacting with each other. So I'm giving you to the whole group, either online, they can type what do they understand about heritage language learners and what is the link between them and foreign language learners and mother tongue language learners, or from the audience, if they can speak, that would be great. Those online, you can type.
Fatima, we have someone in the room.
Okay, please, yes.
Yeah, so my understanding of a heritage learner is maybe a person who has a connection with the language. It might be through family, it might be through, you know, a spiritual or religious reason, or but not the same as a person who's learning the language from scratch. or who's learning the language as an older person. I think a heritage learner may be someone who lives in a family that uses that language, even if that language is not the majority language of the community, for example. So it's a language that they may speak at home with their parents, or the family uses at home, or the minority community uses, but different from the language of the mainstream community and maybe the language of the school, you know, the education system.
Thank you so much. Amazing explanation.
Nicely done.
That's really amazing. Thank you so much, Tony. I really felt that you have got it all. And I have Tatiana from the online. She said heritage language learners are dominant in the other language. So that's you've mentioned a very important side of who are the heritage language learners. And I want only to add these heritage language learners are unique. And in terms of the clarification that you've explained, I would add that these learners, they face discriminations which other host learners don't have, and they have this lack of recognitions in mainstream education for achievement of their community schools. And I want only to add that what Carrera, because I'm also a fan of Carrera's ethos and ideologies, which he mentioned about heritage language learners, Carrera 2009 emphasized that when schools fails to recognize or value the language that the learners bring to the classrooms, this does not affect the learner's psychological well-being only, but it leads to the language loss. And I want to put a lot of lines after behind the language loss or under the language loss, because this is what I heard through these conferences, that we all share these challenges, where our learners, when they become age 13, heritage learners, they feel that they do not belong to their root because of this feeling or this negative forces, what they feel that their language is not valued. So this is the unique case of the heritage language learners. Adding to what Tony has mentioned, these learners are different in terms of they are linked to their language, but they are unique in this term. And adding to that, these learners, we said, are they foreign or mother? I think Christiana has explained this so well as well. They are not foreign language learners. They can be an asset when there are foreign language learning going on in the classroom, and they are not mother tongue language learners, and we cannot bring books from back home, as Christiana mentioned as well, and teach them this language, because they are full of grammar, and they will feel intimidated because they will feel like it's too high for them. For foreign language learners, they will feel insulted because they know lots of that, but they can be used as an asset. So now the next slide, please. So why are we going to the use of project-based language learning then? So why is this? We know that these learners are unique, and I think it has been mentioned before that because they are unique, because they are in between the foreign language learning, the mother tongue language learning, they need a unique way of approaches that can be helping them to be motivated. And we all agreed, I think, from what I have heard, that these learners tend to flee or not wanting to learn the language after the age of adolescence, because they start to be aware of these negative forces that tells them that their language is not valued. And I have example from my students who, when they want to do an A-level, which is a government qualification in London, they were told it won't help them in the university. And that affects a lot of our learners. So the project-based language learning, which is good for heritage, and research has shown that it is as well good for other learners. It's the use of project-based language learning. It addresses relevant real world issues, and it connects, which is really important, I think, with all the learning, not with all heritage language only. The learning of language needs to be connected to the personal experiences and to the interest of the learner. The project-based language learning promotes active learning. It's not about the teacher who stands there as the leader of the classroom. It's about the learner, and the teacher the teacher guide is a guide to the learning. It's not the promoter, the person who leads the learning. And it's about collaboration. The learners collaborate with each other. It's about critical thinking and creativity. Plus, this approaches build the confidence and support positive identity constructions. I will share with you in my showcase how this helps my learners. So now the question is why I am using in my project, in this case, particularly the art. So art, when we speak about art, we speak about both heart and mind. And when we teach the language, language has never been about cognitively only. It's about cognitive and aesthetic emotions. It's about them two together. So it's about thinking and also about feeling. And it's through this emotional connection that real learning begins. Because adding to that, because I cannot say all these points, I will only mention 2 points. Art has no right or wrong. Every learner, when you tell them there is no right or wrong, when you analyze this pieces of art, every learner would participate and would build confidence and will bring their creativity, and they will feel a sense of belonging in the classroom. So everyone has got the chance to participate, because there is no right or wrong and no judgment. Next, please. So which artist I have used with my learner? His name is Ali Omar Armis. He is an international artist. He's a thinker, and he uses short words, poetry in his painting. He uses Arabic art, Arabic letters, and he speaks about social, political, and moral issues. And his works is in many museums. One of them that we have used was in the British Museum in London. Next, please. Now, my question to all of you, either from Arabic background or non-Arabic background, this is why I say art has no limitation and there's no right or wrong. I'm asking you to think with me. Do you think these two pieces of art can be used for the Arabic teachers in the Arabic heritage language? And it could be even non-Arabic heritage language. And for those who don't teach Arabic, I want you to think, because that's what I do with my learners, about the mood, the process, the content, the shape. Even if you don't know what are these two letters, and do you how would you use them in the heritage context Arabic classroom? Only like 1 minute. If 1 or 2 can give me something that we could like feel that we are interacting, then I will share with you my case.
Does anyone have to share something real quick? How would you use these? Maybe everyone can. Oh, yeah. Okay. We have someone here, Fatima.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you. Well, just looking at those two pictures, I think they could, of course, not knowing Arabic at all, but just looking at
Doesn't
the
matter.
pictures, I think they could communicate the emotions, because the one at the top is more vibrant, it brings more different colors and brighter colors. So it's kind of creating a different emotion of like happiness, excitement. And the one below, it's a little bit darker, although it has kind of like a light at the end of a tunnel. I feel like it seems like there is some text. So maybe it would be a good way to start a conversation and then lead specifically into what the letters exactly mean.
To be honest, it's the way you've described it is exactly the way my student looked at it. I love the way when you said that's white tunnel. There's something there that a lighten, or there's a light there. And this is exactly how the student described it. And the colors that has got this darkness, there's a mix of emotions. So in this, that shows me that you don't have to know Arabic. But if you know Arabic, you're going to use it in different ways with the way I've used it. Tatiana, thank you so much. She said, we can compare the mood, our impressions from the two pictures. This is amazing, because language is about emotions, and it's about linguistic, which is the cognitive. And I might son, okay, great. So now, how did I use this in terms of the pedagogical process? It's so easy. We approach the art the way I did with you, with approaching the art piece, brainstorming, discussing, introducing the keywords. Then we move to exploring, where we do some research, connecting and comparing, analyzing and developing language knowledge. Then we go to creating, and creating is the most important part, in a way that students will be redesigning, reimagining, remediating to their personal interest and need. And when I say most important part, all this approach is about, it's not about the end of it, it's about a process. So from the beginning to the end, learners are bringing something new. So that's very important to mention. Next, please. Now, my showcase, I will share with you how did I use project-based language learning, integrating with arts, using these two pieces of art from Ali Omar Miss. Then we will take 30 minutes that you will use it yourself. I want to see from your side as well. So now, next, please. The project-based learning was focused on 12 students with this particular art piece, 8 Arabic background and 4 non-Arabic backgrounds. In terms of the range of linguistic, there were intermediate, and 2 of them, maybe you can consider them pre-advanced. Next, please. So this is a bit of data from the student work. Next, please. Okay, now I will go with you, like explaining how we did it. I did it with them. With the approaching phase, it's an individual work. I will ask the student to look at the art piece and tell me what interacts them to this art piece. How can this art piece, is it linked to their person? Is there something they can link to it? Is there an emotion? So all about how they feel about this art piece. Then approaching, we go to this white tunnel that we can describe it even without knowing what is inside. The artist has got a little poem that or a proverb that says there are 3 types of love: love of relationship, or love of that leads to death, and love of hypocrisy. And from that, we started with the student to think about this art piece and about the content. Next, please. Then we go to exploring phase. This phase aims to assist learner in developing appreciation of the art, plus extending the linguistic understanding, where we put different words and start to ask the student, how do you think about these words, like the emotion? Is it the word speaks about simple, dull, difficult, dark? And then the students start to bring their own vocabulary as well. Move on, please. Okay, now still with the experiment, there's another example where we start to look at the proverb that, as I mentioned, then look at the process, at the mood, and at the content, and the students start to think about how they link it to their personal interest and personal stories as well. Okay, next, please. Thank you. Now, the creating phase. In the creating phase, you can see here a student looking at the side, working on thinking. We'll ask them to think about something that they can create, either a song, either a film, either a story, anything that they can personalize it to, especially that now we have started to speak about the three love, the relationship love, and then the students start to work on it. Next, please. So we ask the student to create something on their own, present or perform it in the real audiences. And I want to add that when we ask the student to present it in the real audiences, that is a part of motivation. They know that their work will be shown to real audiences, and they make more hard work to get their stories or their voices to be heard. And we ask them to be imaginative and personalize their work. Here, there are some questions. We don't have time to look at them, but there is a link of the book that we have created with my colleague, Dr. Jim Anderson and Luma and Reem, that has got these art pieces with the activities as well. We can share with you. Next, please. Okay, now because we looked at the love, three types of love, we linked it to the love of Antara and Abla, which is one of our cultural stories, and we can go to the love of Romeo and Juliet, and we can extend it. That's what we did, a comparison between the love we have in our culture and the love that students study in the GCSE, which is one of the certificates in UK for secondary school. Next. Okay, now I will share with you, this is a work of a student on my right, and the student here has created her own sad, and she created the middle white, which is, she symbolized it of the hope. Everyone looked at it, it said that little white is the hope, and the outside is the challenges, is the darkness, is the difficulties that we face as a student, as a family. And the student created here a piece of writing talking about the family love. She spoke about her parents and how she linked it to the Islamic ethos, how parents are well respected in the Holy Quran. And she made the color somber, dark, and she put the eye, and she called it letter shape relates to family love, and that eye is the hope that she symbolized the family connections. So this is one student. Next, please. The other student said, I've looked at the sad, and straight away I imagined a ship, and he called it the ship of rescue. And he, inside of the ship, he wrote about the love of family as well. And he made this appreciation of visual and textual elements that complement each other between the text and the art of Ali Omar Mais that inspired the students. So he drew a ship, and in the sea, he made his own vocabulary that he used to write his story. Next, please. Okay, so here, what the student said, one of the students said, I have actually been able to make personal connection with Ali Omar Armis. This is student D, and I like from my personal life, for example, if one of the artwork which I wrote the poem in, which was a sad, I was based on a family love, which I had to link to my personal life, and I feel that really made it my own. So look at this, made it my own, and that's what motivates students to bring their personal stories, bring their personal needs, and when they felt it's about themselves, they start to speak and they start to bring, even some of them, they got their parents involved, talking about personal stories, which I will share with you. Please, next. Okay, here the student decided to do a film. This film was about one of our students who is a real story based on a story of one of our students who got, as you can see, sorry, I need to explain. If you can go to the next page. Yes, here in the circle of the side is the hope side, all the good things that happen to them, and in the cup side is all the challenges that happen to this child. They combine two stories. A story of our student who got bitten by a dog, then he got better, and a story of our other student who had an accident and she missed her GCSE exam, but because of the help of the teacher, she built her confidence and did well in the second exam. And the boy who, because of the help of the whoever helped him in terms of medical, he started to like the dogs after the first accident that happened to him. Next, please. Now I want to share with you a little this film, but I won't share it all. I will use a bit of the beginning. If you could help me, who has got the who is in control, and a bit of the end where we can see the real story of the child. And by the way, here parents got involved. The parents, the mom asked me to get his story in the process because she wanted him to feel proud of his progress. So it's called Story of Hope. We need some sound, please. So we need sound for the film and the sound for the audio that we will be coming soon. I can't hear it. Yes. Good.
من هذا الذي يتصل؟ مرحبا أحمد، ماذا تريد؟
محمد لا تتأخر، لدينا امتحان بعد نصف ساعة.
أين أقلامي وأين كتبي؟ لقد نسيت.
محمد لماذا أنت مسرع؟
لدي امتحان بعد نصف ساعة.
إن شاء الله بالتوفيق.
متأخر كثيرا، يجب أن أذهب من طريق الحديقة.
عندما خرج محمد من المنزل رآه كلبا كبير وقرر الكلب الحاق به.
النجدة ساعدوني.
تعطلت الدراجة وإذا بمحمد يجري مسرعا.
أين محمد؟ سوف نتأخر على الامتحان.
محمد هناك، لماذا يجري؟
هجم الكلب.
محمد ما بك؟ هل لديك هاتف؟
دعني أتحقق.
Okay, if we can go to minute, I think 3. If you pass it
جاء
a bit.
الإسعاف لإنقاذ محمد.
So here
السلام
محمد.
عليكم أم محمد، أنا دكتور يوسف.
Go a little bit
أريد
further.
أن أخبرك.
Yes.
أهلا يا أستاذ، هل لديك أي نصائح لتحسين درجاتي؟
حاول إعادة الامتحانات التي تجد فيها صعوبة.
حسنا يا أستاذ، سوف أعمل بنصائحك وإن شاء الله ستتحسن درجاتي.
فشل محمد بالامتحان التجريبي الأول. هل أنت مستعد للامتحان الآخر؟
نعم يا أستاذ.
بسم الله. الامتحان التجريبي الثاني، لديكم من الزمن ساعة ونصف. لم يصدق الأستاذ النتيجة التي حصل عليها محمد، وكان يظنه أحد الراسبين هذا العام، وجد اسم محمد بين الطلاب الناجحين بتميز، وبعد ذلك قال الأستاذ: من جد وجد ومن سار على الدرب وصل.
I think we should move on. Yeah. Fatima, can we move on so we'll have time for the...
Sure. I wanted
Yeah.
only to see the real story of the child because he had his picture.
Beautiful.
Okay. Now that we have seen the SAD, which is talk about three types of love relationship and how the student took it further, I want to share with you the other art piece which is related to the little bar. Even before you know the bar, it has got that glamorous gold in the middle, and inside of it, I won't go with the same process because it's the same process: approaching, exploring, creating. I won't do that. I will only show you how did my student do the bear in this little tiny red here on the top. There is a little poem that says, blame yourself that sinned and don't blame others. Don't hold anyone to an account for their sins. So from this is how the idea started. So my students, yeah, you can go to the next slide. They looked at the art piece and they said, they linked it to the theme of environment, and they look at the gold part as the best part of this is the Mother Earth at its best, and all the darkness surrounding it is how the environment is destroying our Mother Earth, and they start to talk about taking responsibility. Next, please. And Yusra, as I said, she looked at it and she said, it's the earth at its best. I mentioned that. Please, next. And here, one of my students, she created the art piece and personalized it. She created her own poetry and she made the bar bleeding, as you can see. And she has added the other challenges that the earth is facing in terms of war, poverty, and she added some religious verses that speaks about you don't blame others before you blame yourself. لما تقولون ما لا تفعلون. Next, please. Okay, here another student, she used a poem as well, which we will read, which we'll listen to now. It's only a few seconds, 2 seconds, and she created her own poem, as you can see, and she created that hand of human mankind calling, trying to help the Mother Earth, and the earth is in that gold, but it is surrounded with calamities. So there is an appreciation of art and language and the development of visual arts, and here there is that link to the culture and emotions. If you can click on
Fatima,
that, so we can hear.
I think Mark is going to share the Google Drive link in the chat, so those online will have access to it, and we can move on. Because I think we'll have to like exit out of the whole thing and then go back. But I can try.
Only because it's 2 seconds, only to hear how she used her art piece with her poem.
Let's see. Yeah, it says I need access. So we'll just
okay.
View. No. Why is it not showing anymore? Yeah, I think maybe those online, and this PowerPoint is available online for everyone, so you would have the link and you can listen to it. But we are almost to the application phase, so we want to make time for that.
Yeah, no problem. Anyway, that was the end, the one before end, and next it's the visual art. What can visual art do? That's my last. If you can go next, please.
Okay, just a second.
And
go next. Okay. There we go.
Yeah. So what can art what can visual art do? I'm not sure if we have got time to. I'd love that we can listen to one or two from the audience, or from the, if anyone from the online can write anything. But I would say a very short, how can visual art help the learners? So visual art in language learning provides meaningful context and purpose, while fostering learner agency, creativity, and voice. It supports appreciation of heritage culture, strengthens pride and bilingual identity, and opens up personal, emotional, and multisensory dimensions of learning. And in doing so, it also develop learners' awareness of multimodal design and intertextuality. So that's like a quick conclusion of how arts can help the learning. And thank you. That's my part.
Thank you, Fatima, Dr. Khaled. Everyone is clapping.
Thank you.
Okay, so the people in the room, I know these are two very different approaches. People in the room will be working with me on critical task design, a template that I have for you via this QR code, how to design a critical task for your context. And then online, you'll go to the breakout rooms to work with Dr. Khaled on applying what we just saw to your own. So if you go to, oh, I'm so sorry, the snapshot, the screenshot has, yeah, so go to the critical task design template and we will work in small groups. Who teaches Spanish as a heritage language? Oh, nobody. Who, maybe group yourselves by language or context, or you don't have to at all. It's not a big deal. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so much diversity.